What's good, folks? How you living? Welcome back once again. It's your boy Emilio Weckbar, and we're here talking sports once again. We got really good feedback off of people that tuned into the last episode that we did, and I'm here kicking it with my man Ariel De Jesus, the host of the Gold School NBA Retro Show. For those of y'all out there who may have missed it, definitely go check that out. It's definitely one of the dope and rising platforms out here now. You know, chopping it up with the NBA players of past times. You know, he had the one with Eldridge Rakazna not too long ago, which was a very great interview. So for anybody out there that want to get to know the history of basketball, get to know the history of some of the dopest players that wasn't really mentioned or talked about that much throughout time, definitely go over there and go check out his platform. Ariel, what's good with you, man? How's everything?
I'm good, man. Just living life. Just working on my content. I got a lot of fire things coming up. I got doing some with Mark Price. Mark Price actually going to be the next one.
Nice.
I'm going to be discussing. I got a Sidney Moncrief one in the works right now. Recording for that episode. I'm just going to edit up those videos, and I got many more legends coming, man. Even Malik Sealy, man. So stay tuned.
Oh, man, rest in peace to the late, great Malik Sealy, man. Definitely was a dope basketball player taken from us way, way too soon, man. I used to love him when he was playing for the Timberwolves, man. That dynamic he had with Kevin Garnett, and also, you know, when Sam Cassell was on the team and everything like that, man. So
Isaiah Ryder, too, man.
Yeah, Isaiah Ryder, man. Yo, the Timberwolves, people fail to realize, man, the Timberwolves had a whole lot of dope players that came through their organization, man. You got not only mentioning, you know, Kevin Garnett, you also got to mention Steph Marbury. You got to mention, you know, Wiley Zerbe.
Christian Laettner, too, not talked about either.
Yeah, Christian Laettner is not talked about as much. Definitely got a whole lot of, you know, dope players that came through the Timberwolves, man. But definitely want to say rest in peace to the late Malik Sealy and all that good stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing that one, man. So you got to let me know when you dropping that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I got the Mark Price dropping this week, and then next week is going to be Sidney Moncrief. I titled that one El Cid, and then Mark Price, the lead sharpshooter that doesn't get enough love, was talked about. That's going to be the title of it.
Okay, cool. So, like, with that being said, man, like, what has been the feedback so far, you know, from the Eldridge Rakazna interview and all the other, you know, dope pieces of content that you've been putting out there, you know, with some of the great NBA players that don't get talked about as often?
A lot of feedback, man. I mean, I'm loving it because, like I said, man, I do it for the people. I do it for the people that just love the general game like me. Like I said, I love my Knicks, but, you know, I love talking more than just the Knicks. I talk about basketball in general, and there's nothing better than talking about a past era that you pretty much know a lot about, because I started watching basketball in 92.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these people that I'm talking about, some of them, my uncles taught me. Some of them I did, researched it, and I learned it from there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many things that the feedback I'm getting from like people, my fan base that likes my content. It's a mixture of like young and older, because I do cater to the older crowd. But there's a reason why I did it. I wanted to bridge the gap between the young and the older. And I got people that DM me all the time. Hey, talk about this person, talk about that person. I want to hear about Isaiah Ryder. I want to hear about Allen Robinson from the older generation. You know, there's so many other players that, things that players that they want to hear. And this is what I'm doing. If I'm doing it for the love of the game, I'm doing it for them. And it's just overwhelming. It's the great and in a good way. Eldridge Rakazna, you could see how much he enjoyed it. Me and him talk, on and off. And, he's always welcome my platform, because that one's going to be dear to me, because that's the player that first gave me the ground, the break to, jump on my show. Mm-hmm. And just hearing him tell his MJ stories, and hearing a lot of people enjoyed that. They love the Gary Payton story, the MJ playing with Robert Pack in school, whatever. And, just a lot of things that the insight of the game from these players that played against all these greats, man. It's just dope, because you watch these guys as a kid, and then you see as you get older, you talk to these guys that while they're, when they retired, and they talk about all the things that happened, like when they got crossed over by Allen Iverson and hit with a spin move and put in the blender, and then they're laughing about like, this is what actual basketball discourse is fun, and it makes it fun, hearing it from a player that actually was there. So not only I'm fortunate enough to have someone to tell the story there, but I'm able to even talk about it and talk to these people. For me, it's a blessing, because it's something I always wanted to do since I was younger. Mm-hmm. Collecting basketball cards, all the Fleer and all that other stuff. And now that I actually have have all this stuff, this information about them. It brings back the nostalgia, and I just love it, man. I adore it. I adore the game, and I just look forward to having many more players on my platform, and I think it's going to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. And I told you on the last one, man, like, you can just feel the amount of passion and the amount of, care that goes into the content that you create and everything. Cause I was watching the Eldridge Rakazna, as I recall, and that right there, seeing those old Hawks uniforms, those old Hawk, stadium pictures, also with the floor, the court and everything like that, and then seeing, Jordan in that era, it brought me back to that time when I really just started falling in love with basketball. Like, I've been watching myself, I'm going to say like around like 93. I really started watching close to when the Bulls took on the Blazers and stuff like that. So that's when I really started getting into basketball, because at that time I was only like, 9 or 10 years old. So I didn't really know too much about the game, but that's what I started, opening up my eyes to. And I started really falling in love with the game itself. And, in 1996, around the time when the draft class came out that had Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Steph Marbury, all those dope players that came out of that 96 draft class. And just seeing that right there just brought me back so many memories, man. 'Cause I remember you used to, sneak to watch the games and stuff like that. Games come on late, so I couldn't really watch the games like I want to. And then back when TBS was really popping and you had the Hawks games and stuff like that, being able to see, Mutombo, Steve Smith, being able to see Mookie Blaylock, then when they got LaFonso Ellis and all those dope players and everything like that, it really brought me back to that time. So I really do appreciate what you're doing with your content, and also, like you said, bridging the gap, because a lot of people out here, only people they think about right now in today's NBA, and understandably so, because you got a lot of young people that are watching right now. You got a lot of people out there watching Steph Curry. You got a lot of people out there watching, LeBron James and everything. And no disrespect to them, but I think a lot of people will understand and appreciate the game a lot more if they understand where it actually came from and got to know the history on how the game evolved over time. Like, a lot of people think that, LeBron is greater than Jordan, which, you can argue that fact if you want to. And I like his response to that when he said there's really no greatest, because how can you really compare, when it comes to like individual players, especially those that didn't play each other in those particular eras and whatnot. So, I like the fact that you're bridging the gap, and I also like the fact that, you're starting to see, you made mention one time before about the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, bringing him to the Knicks. That's going to set a new dynamic for all the young players to focus more on fundamentals and all the right things within the game, man. So I do appreciate that.
Yo, thank you, man. This, like I said, this is what I do it for. So, like, I always tell people, like, give me feedback, give me what you like about it, anything other than that. Like I said, I talk to a lot of content creators. I talk to a lot of people that are already in the industry, like that work for SNY and multiple other stations that are actually on cable. And it told me, hey, I appreciate what you do. Hey, next time, put this clip on there before you do this. And there's no better insight that you could take than somebody that's already like basically put in that work and been in that field for a long time, and they're actually working for these networks, which is what my ultimate goal is, to be featured on a network. Because I feel like if you look at like cable television, you don't really see too many people having like, now the content creators are coming on these stations now. Like, he brings up Dexter Henry is another guy that I'm cool with, and I talk to him all the time. He works for SNY. He brings on content creators. He's brought Nick content creators, WNBA, you name it. He brings them on the baseball. He does it all. And he started from the pit of the bottom and worked his way up. And that's the way I envision with my Go School Retro NBA taking off, because it's basically, it grew organically, and it's something that came from the heart, and it's something that I enjoy talking about. So when you put those things together, it makes a component for a wonderful platform and a wonderful show, because there's a lot of people out here I'm noticing that create content. Because I'm a type of person, like, I will listen to other content creators and how they talk, their deliverance, how they engage with their audience. And there's some people in content creation that don't value their listeners. They don't, they make up things, and they're with the drama, negativity sells. And I'm doing another avenue, because while that is true to a certain extent, we already have a Stephen A. Smith. We already have a Max Kellerman. You know what I'm saying? I see these guys every day. They're doing nothing to me. I saw that already, and they're getting paid for it. I don't need to see a million other content creators trying to be just like them. Absolutely. So when I did the content, I did it because it was from the heart, and I did it because I know it's something that's going to bring a different perspective to the game, because there's not a lot of people that are here talking about the greats. And I just appreciate every era. I don't like to do the whole MJ versus LeBron thing. I've never been into that. I think every era should just be appreciated for the way it is and stop comparing.
I agree. I definitely
just enjoy the LeBron being the best of this era. Enjoy Jordan being the best of the 90s era. You know, enjoy all these greats that have come along the game in the past. Enjoy them because, like I said, there's many of these guys, those guys that we talk about from the past that if you put them into today's game, they will excel in a heartbeat. You know, because some people have this, the younger generation sometimes say, oh, well, back then the game was one of, and to a certain extent, it's eerily a little similar, a little true, but the context in it too, there's a lot of great players that played back then that would excel in today's game. Many, too many to name, you know? And I just feel like that me bridging that gap between them and just teaching the young and then the older people appreciating what I do. I think this platform is just excellent for that because really there's not so many people that are taking the old school route avenue. People are more so worried about the present. And me, I like to dig into the past because the past is actually what made the future. A lot of these guys that paved the way for this game right now, for them getting paid, getting their money, was because of guys in the past. So we can't sit here and not talk about them and just disregard them because there were so many of them that came along the league. They paved the way financially and, you know, the game growing itself, man, and just let's see what it is today, you know?
I absolutely agree with that. And the one thing I'm loving right now about this particular era that we in when it comes to content creation is that we don't have to rely so much on mainstream in order to go get, you know, our views and listen to, like, you know, statistical things and stuff like that when it comes to sports nowadays. Like, you don't have to rely on the ESPN. You don't have to rely on these different mainstream outlets. You know, you got a lot of dope content creators out there, and then you got a lot of people out there that just do it just for clout. I like the ones that actually, when they come to speak about, you know, certain things when it comes to basketball, football, or whatever, that they have the facts to back it up. You know, it's not everybody out there that's trying to have the hot take, get the, you know, the viral clip of the week. You know, they're actually speaking on things that actually make sense. That's why I can appreciate guys like Knicks Fans TV and, you know, all those other kind of, you know, platforms that actually are doing something that is impactful and not just having a whole bunch of hot takes and just trying to see who can say the most viral thing in order to get, you know, views and clicks on their, you know, content and everything. So I do appreciate stuff like that.
No, you definitely got a point. You hit me right in the head. You see when I, you know, because we engage a lot on Twitter. There's the main thing I have with a lot of people that are content there. Like, listen, I always say, fan, how you want to fan, do what you want to do, right? But at the same time, like when I see sometimes there's not enough content where it's like context, so that's why I appreciate. I met CP in person. I talked to him a few times in person, and when he did the RJ Barrett interview, I was actually there over the summer last year, and he's a real cool, down to earth dude. And that's what I appreciate about him. He got it out the mud. I remember when he first started, and I first started getting into, but had an interest in getting into the content creator game, and I haven't talked to him and many other people that have blown up ever since, and they started off small like me. It gives me that confidence. Like if they can do it, then I can do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it organically. I'm doing it by myself. Nobody is co-hosting with me. It's just me. I created this platform, and I'm going to do so many amazing things with it. I'm learning. And like I said, it's a different avenue because, like I said, I'm not with have the most, I want to get clout or I want to get kind of, a lot of people get into this game for the wrong reason because they're looking for clout. They're looking for just to be liked. And you got to realize too, no matter how genuine you are, you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have people that don't like you.
Absolutely.
You can't please everybody. You just got to be genuine from the heart. Block out the noise. If you got haters, whatever. Like I always say, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. I get a lot of hate because I speak facts. I don't fit it with the algorithm, especially with Nick Twitter, because you see how it goes on Nick Twitter, where people say things about a player that's not true. And we had many conversations about this. Like, when we talk about people, let's make sense. Let's make, now, like you said, but everybody's trying to have that hot take or that tweet that goes viral, no matter how hideous it looks or how foolish it looks. Let me just go viral because I want to be liked. Say I want to be popular, and I'm not in this for popularity. I'm not in this for votes. I'm not in it for none of that. I'm in it because of the love of the game. I always say that, and I always end it with that. I do this because I love it. Now I'm not looking for attention. I'm not looking for fame, and I'm not looking for everybody to like me because you know what? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I'm me though. I'm genuine. Can't nobody say I'm fake.
Absolutely. And that's just I be seeing how you be chopping it up on Twitter with the guys on there that be talking Knicks stuff, and I'm like, yo, some of the takes that a lot of these guys just come with from time to time are just absolutely absurd. Like, it's not even based on fact, it's not even based on anything statistical, it's just based on the fact whether or not they like this certain player. Like, we watched over this season people chew apart RJ Barrett, we seen people chew apart Julius Randle, even at times, people was chewing apart Brunson, and anybody basically on the Knicks on the Knicks that wore a Knicks uniform was subject to some type of harsh criticism that wasn't based in reality. Like how we seeing right now with a lot of people with the Julius Randle slander. When they come down to it, I really do feel a lot of it is slander because, a lot of people are still sour over the fact that he thumbs down the fans last year. But, he had a bad season the year before that, and now he had a really good bounce back season, won another, all NBA nomination for a second time in his 4 years here in New York. And then on top of that, he made it to the All-Star once again. And it just was unfortunate that close to the end of the season he had the ankle injury. Both you and I, we are athletes as well, so we know how it feels to try to play on an injured ankle. Sometimes it's just not possible, and he gave it all he could in the playoffs, and just unfortunately he wasn't himself. He was a shell of himself, and unfortunately now that just has a lot of fans with a whole lot of unfair criticism. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree. And like, what's the thing? Like I said, man, like I'm always the type of person that, because I've had people like screenshot me and say they like, oh, was this you saying this? And I'm like, fam, that was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the same thing. I was a big Cam Reddish guy when we first acquired him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I noticed sometimes with Knicks, and let's be real, like some of the real people that like are real like diehard Knicks fans and knowledgeable ones, they're not on. Most of them are not on Twitter.
That's true.
I talk with a lot of guys that are real down. A lot of them don't even go on Twitter for these reasons, because a lot of people on Twitter, like you said, they just want to be liked. They want to go viral, even if it sounds, if the opinion sounds real terrible. They don't care, and they'll live on a hill. And that's the difference between me. Listen, my opinion is my opinion. It ain't better than nobody, right? But when I talk genuine, and I talk facts and stats. I don't talk narratives. I don't talk about, hypotheticals and, his body language and his, he's a cancer to the team. But listen, I've heard it all, and I sit there and listen, and I'm like, how are these people just making things up? Like, at one point, if you say you're a diehard Knicks fan, that means you watch like me. I watch the press conferences. I watch the post games. I watch the game 2 or 3 times to see if I missed something I didn't catch when I was watching it live. And how can we watch the same game and come to the conclusion that somebody is a cancer to the team when you can clearly see it there that the whole team is united around him and likes him? Yeah. Jalen Brunson has spoke up about how much him and Randle get along, the chemistry that they have. This is Jalen Brunson, the best player on the team, saying that. So when we talk, this is why I say when we talk, we got to make sense. A lot of people do not make sense. They just, because they don't like you said, most of them can't get over last year. They're living on that hill. You know what? I'm not like that. I killed the guy last year. I listen, there was a lot of things, and most of the stuff wasn't even basketball. It was just the stuff I was seeing off the court that was getting me annoyed. Right. It wasn't his play style. Yes, he was turning the ball over too much, holding it too long, which he said, like I said, it's not conducive in real life, and it's not conducive to a sport avenue where you're going to kill a player for it to change. And then when he comes in the next season, changing his attitude, you see the guy meditating every time before the game. So he's obviously checking his mental health because it says something was going on last year. And that's his business. We got to remember, too, these people are human beings.
That's true.
We don't know what's going on in their life. We don't know these people personally. So if there's something off about him, trust and believe it's something personal. And that's something he needed to address, and he did that.
Exactly.
And then he came back with a different attitude, a better team player. You could see him being more happy and genuinely happy for his teammates like he wasn't doing last year. Yes, he might have gotten to a little spat with Quigley. People overblew that, which I knew they were going to do. And like I said, these guys, you can know the difference between a fan that only watches his team and a fan that watches the whole NBA. Mm-hmm. See, I watch the whole NBA. I have NBA League Pass. I watch other teams, and I've seen countless teams' best players or second best players go at it with a role player or another teammate, whatever. Worse than what we saw was just getting in the face and breaking it up. Mm-hmm. And then when we saw 3 days later, they were chilling with each other at a fashion show, smiling and laughing it up. So that's why I said you're making noise for what? Just because you don't like the guy. You got to stop the micro, like basically like micromanaging of the players because you don't like them. Just say you don't like them. I respect you more if you just say that. But don't make up stuff on somebody just because you don't like it, because it makes you look foolish. You know, because let's face it, without Julius Randle this year, you don't get this far.
I agree.
And I keep telling people, they keep saying, "Well, if he was hurt, he should have sat out." Bro, you know what the new narrative would have been? Well, everybody's hurt in the playoffs. He's soft. He got to lace up his boots.
Basically,
we know that because it's always a goal post moving after one another. A lot of people do. I call it mental the mental gymnastics is what I call it. Where if that one opinion don't work because you debunk it, they'll move it to another opinion because that other opinion didn't work. It don't work that way. See, that's why I say that, and I know that's why I'm hated because I talk facts. Anybody who talks to me knows. I tell them all the time, listen, you arguing with somebody who watches the game. You're not arguing. And listen to some of them talk. They'd be like, "Oh, I missed the first half. Oh, I was driving. I didn't see this." So how do you know what happened? You just look at. You could tell the people that just look at stats and actually watch the game of what's going on, the ins and outs. Or you could tell the guy that just only look at stats and say, "Oh, he played like trash." That's it.
Those are the people.
I look at the game from a different lens.
Those are the people that think because they know what plus minus is, think that they have a high intelligence when it comes to basketball. And I'm like, listen, like plus minus, you can throw that stat out the window. It really doesn't mean nothing when it comes down to it. It's all about the little plays that impact winning. Like, you know, the diving for the loose balls, the going and scrapping for a rebound, those getting those extra passes, swinging the ball when, you know, you don't have a good shot, looking for the open man and then swinging it to the next man to get an even better shot. The hitting the free throws, which is something that, you know, the Knicks, you know, arguably can, you know, work to improve on over the off season. But, you know, it's just the little things that impact the game. Is like a lot of people they want to just look at stats, like you said. And a lot of people think because this player had a negative plus minus or this guy had a plus minus, like that automatically means that, you know, this player sucks or this player played great or whatever. Plus minus is just a stat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the little things on the game. I mean, during the course of a game that you got to look at that sees whether or not this person can really impact winning. You know, one of the biggest things that used to piss me off last year was the fact that, you know, people was talking about RJ Barrett. You know, now I'm going to be honest. RJ Barrett is probably my favorite player on the team. So it may seem like I'm being a little bit biased. And I do admit that he had a lot of struggles last season, but to call him trash when he had, you know, pretty much games where, you know, if it wasn't for him making a certain play or hitting a clutch basket when we needed it the most, we wouldn't have won that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the Boston game this year when he hit the, you know, the three to send it into OT. You know what I'm saying? Like, people will be thinking, like, you know, because he's not putting up, you know, 35 and 9 every night, or he's not as athletic as, say, a Donovan Mitchell or any of these other super athletic two guards or threes in the league, they automatically think he's garbage. When you look at his improvement over years, he's been averaging, you know, the last couple of seasons pretty much 20 points per game. So how can you say somebody who's putting that type of production on the court every game as a, or should I say every season as a third option, how can you really say that that man is garbage?
And this is why I said this is the context of see this right here. This is true basketball talk, and I agree. And I totally agree with you with the plus minus. The only thing is that only on some occasions it does mean something. Not all the time though. I agree with you on that. Not all the time, because some people use that as just the only thing. It's like the same thing, like for instance, right? There's still a lot of Knicks fans that upset about Cam Reddish. They feel like he didn't get a fair shot. I watched Cam Reddish all in due. I watched Cam Reddish since he came in the league. What is Cam Reddish? He's Mr. Inconsistent.
True.
He will go one game where he looks like he's the guy that they said could have been the best player on Duke, which I agree. But you also see when he does stay, he'll have one good game and then disappear for the next 6, and you forget he's even on the court. Where he's putting up minus 20, 3 for 11, 2 for 13, missing rotation. Defensively, he took a real regression defensively, because I thought his knife would make him a better defender. But there's been multiple videos. There's a guy named Ace. He does video breakdowns, and he was saying the same thing, that scouts had reservation about him. They said that Cam had a low ball IQ. Defensively, he has very long arms. a big wingspan, but he doesn't use it to his advantages a lot of times because of his low basketball IQ. A low motor, sometimes looks disinterested, and I've seen that. And then, that's the difference between me and some other Knicks fans on Twitter is that I could rave about a guy, but I also know when to bring it down. When I say, you know what? My opinion was probably wrong. Because guess what? We don't bat 1,000 all the time. Neither do I. All my opinions ain't never right all the time.
True.
Sometimes you miss. And that was one that I missed on. Because the same way I was praising him, it's the same way I'm going to say, you know what? I might have to bring it down a notch because I don't think he's that good. He might not have a role on the team. And what happens? We remove him from the star lineup, put in Quentin Grimes. And we all know, they even said it in practice, he was cooking everybody in practice, Cam Reddish. But sometimes you could cook in practice, but the live game time will show you who the real player is.
That is true.
It's like I don't get excited when people put up these workout videos of people. So they're like, oh, look, he's shooting threes. Look at Mitchell Robinson shooting the J. And I'm like, yeah, that's all good and dandy, but can he do it in a live game?
That is true.
When he can't even barely hit a free throw, So that's the thing. The context is key, bro. The same thing with Cam. The same thing they did with Knox. The same way they did with Alonzo Trier. The same way they did with Franklin Nikita. They amp up certain players because they have one good game or they show one little flashy move and they say, oh, well, he wasn't coached right. He wasn't given an opportunity. He wasn't given an opportunity. He's going on his third team.
Right.
So what point do you have to say in your head and say, you know what? It might be the play. I remember he got traded to Portland. Oh, watch Portland unlock Cam. Watch him. You know what took that man 7 games for him to have a decent game? And it wasn't even the greatest game. Just he got 16 points. He had maybe 6 rebounds.
Right.
But one thing I did notice, like I said, I watched those games in Portland. Defensively, he was getting cooked a lot of times. Even against the Knicks, there was one time they played the Knicks and Cam was getting sprayed by Deuce McBride, who's not even a good shooter, getting eyed by him with a hand in his face. And I'm like, this is the Cam Reddish y'all thought that we missed out on or wasn't given a fair shot. We got to stop that. Listen, sometimes it's okay to say, my opinion was wrong. I overvalued that player. He's not as good as I thought he was. It's okay to say that. The same thing with Obi Toppin. I love Obi. I met his father opening night. Wish the kid well. But he's a severely flawed player. You can't get excited just because he makes a little highlight reel dunk on a leak out or because he hit a couple of threes in the corner and you want to throw pom-poms on. You got to realize he can't rebound at a high level. Oh, well, he doesn't get enough minutes. How is he supposed to play? Because there's the reasons why he doesn't see more play on the floor. Because he's a liability. He doesn't play defense. He gets bullied. Listen, Julius Randle by no means is not the greatest defender ever. But the way people say that, ask the Knicks fans one question, and my boy Dom, if you don't follow Dom, Dominic Bernardo, he pointed this out all the time because he thinks just like me. He says, but I think that everybody, when they don't like a certain player, what's the first thing they say? Well, he doesn't play defense. Well, you know what? A lot of stars don't play defense. He's not the only one. So we got to stop using that as, oh, well, he just don't play no defense, so, we don't need him here. Let me tell you something, while he might not be the greatest defender, you do know one thing, his defensive rating is not the lowest on the Knicks. But I bet you some Knicks Twitter, they wouldn't even know that. That's why I'm glad he posed that question. Look at who's the defensive rating, what's Julius Randle defensive rating on the Knicks. He doesn't have the worst defensive rating on the Knicks for a reason.
Right.
And there's other things that he does that Obi can't do. Physicality, rebound. You know what that impacts? That impacts winning.
Exactly.
Those are winning traits. Obi doesn't have that yet. Can he work on it? Absolutely. But we also got to remember, too, he played 4 years in college. People will say, oh, he was dominating in college. No, he wasn't. The first 3 years, nobody knew who Obi was until the last year of his college career when they made the tournament. Then his name started coming out there. But remember, he was 22, bullying a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? The NBA game is different. There's many players that dominated in the college and then went to the NBA and ended up playing in China 4 or 5 years later. I'm not saying that's his fate, but we can't use college as an acronym. Same thing with Cameron. Say, well, he usually won games for them in the tournament. Yeah, that's all sweet and dandy. But how has that translated into the NBA?
True.
And they'll say, oh, well, he had players playing in front of him. He could have. But listen, if you're good, you got to know the NBA is competition. You're always going to have somebody in front of you. It's how much do you want it?
That's real talk.
Because hard work like you said, hard work don't beat talent when talent don't put in the work.
Absolutely.
Because there's guys, you're going up against 3 or 4 guys that don't want to get sent down to the G League. And guess what? If you're not hungry enough, you're either 2 things. You're going to get traded or you're going to get sent down to the G League to go work on your game. So if you're not hungry enough, that player that you think is not as talented as you is going to outshine you. And it's the same thing with Cam, same thing with Obi, same thing with Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox might not even be in the league anymore. There's still people think that we failed him. And not saying that, hey, well, you know what? He's a limited player.
I mean,
because how many bad teams can you put him on and then keep making the same excuse?
Right.
It's not every coach's fault. It's the player.
Right.
The coach has nothing to do with it. Because listen, I watch the games. I watch Obi Toppin build defensive rotations constantly. So most of the time, players got to tell him where he got to be at. Because he's not the best cutter either at all. He doesn't rebound because you know why he doesn't rebound? Because he's halfway down the court leaking out. Right. And guess what happens? That leads into second chance points. Now he has to play catch up and there's his man open and he gives up an open look. Those things affect the game. And this is what people don't understand. You can't be fans of certain players. You got to be fans of the team. You got to critique them the same way. Listen, I went to the watch party when the last game we got eliminated against Miami. Everybody and their mother they couldn't get Julius Randle out of their mouth when we got eliminated. Somebody scribbled trade me. Somebody ripped down the poster and went viral. They were stomping on the poster that they have them out there. And I'm like, are they serious? They doing all this, realizing that. And listen, I love RJ Barrett. But RJ Barrett had an awful game. And I didn't hear not one person say, man, RJ didn't step up tonight.
Well,
so this is what I said. People root for players. They don't root for their team. They root for their favorite player.
True.
To succeed.
And I think a lot of that came from the fact that, being that RJ Barrett, after the second game in Cleveland in the first round of the playoffs, and when he, came out and started, balling like he was doing from game 3 up until that point, I think that's the reason why a lot of people cut him some slack. But you was right. He definitely had to play a lot better. If he would have played a lot better that game, and, a few shots and a few, turnovers would have went our way, we definitely would have forced a game 7 at least. At best, I would say we would have forced a game 7. Better yet, and even if the whole team would have showed up, for that game 7, I'm pretty sure we could have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Just unfortunately, this year, Miami was the much better team. They wasn't your typical number 8 seed. And a lot of people keep realizing that, Miami has been in the playoffs and has been in the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals for the last 4 or 5 years almost. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't really look at what they did during the regular season and the fact that they finished with the 8th seed as a measuring stick, because some people, when they get into that 8th spot, they play a lot better than what their season record indicates. Like they said, the score doesn't always indicate the way the game went. Sometimes it may end in a blowout, but that doesn't mean the game wasn't close throughout. Just like with the Heat. You seen that their record was bad throughout the regular season, but when they got into the playoffs, they was a whole different team. You know what I'm saying? So, some people got to understand, they just had they just had a better strategy. And then you had one of the greatest coaches of this era, and Eric Spoelstra, who's been there, won championships, has been back and forth to the finals, been to the Eastern Conference Finals. So he pretty much knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't sit there and always make it look like, just the players just suck. Sometimes maybe the coaches got a better game plan than what we had when we went out there on the floor, and it showed. You know what I mean?
No, and I definitely agree. You definitely hit some points, but you know what's everybody was gunning on Julius Randle in that closeout game. A lot of people missed a certain aspect of the game. They don't realize that what Spoelstra did was pack the paint because he knew that the Knicks were not a good deep shooting team. So what he did was he packed the paint, made take the ball out of Brunson, take the ball out of Randle's hands, and you live with the Knicks shooting. Because you notice, of all the doubles, Quinn Grimes couldn't hit his open shot. The whole team was just having a brick fest.
Oh, yeah.
All these double teams. This is why I said the main issue, people trading Julius Randle solves nothing with this team. What this team needs in that starting lineup in the bench is they need shooting. It's the reason why we didn't beat Miami. We had no lack of outside shooting. We didn't have a consistent outside shooter. That game 6 is a prime example. That game 6, Quinn Grimes couldn't buy a shot from outside.
I agree.
On open looks. They were literally standing that. They were leaving them open for a reason. Because they said, you know what, if they're going to beat us, they're going to have to beat us by making their open shots. And the Knicks weren't doing that. RJ Barrett couldn't hit a shot. Quinn Grimes couldn't shot. And then on top of that, our bench just did not step up to the plate. Unfortunately, Quigley got hurt, but he's another guy that pretty much he crapped the bed because we needed him because our bench should have not been getting cooked by the Miami bench. The Miami bench was statistically a lot worse than the Knicks bench. But our bench, plain and simple, didn't show up. This is why I said it's a team sport. Yes, Coach Spoelstra is a phenomenal. I love Eric Spoelstra. He's a phenomenal coach. Oh, yeah. I give him the utmost credit. They beat us fair and square, but I don't think it was much of a masterclass of coaching that people think. He knew that we were limited in certain areas, and he played the game right. And what's the game about? It's about making adjustments. We didn't have the personnel to make those adjustments. We couldn't say, a lot of people say, well, we could have used Evan Fournier. Really, did you see what Evan Fournier looked like in the beginning of the season?
Right.
Like, the guy, if he's not hitting a shot, he can't do anything else, literally, on the court. Pretty much just doing cardio. That wasn't going to, Derrick Rose wasn't going to save the season. We don't have a lack of perimeter shooting. This is why I said, you got guys like Steph Curry coming on the market. That could be a buy low option that you could sell high on. You can get a small move like that. Even a Dante DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo's got the connection with Hart, with Brunson. They all play for Villanova. And that's another playmaker that can actually, that's another issue we had. People say, well, Jalen Brunson played heavy minutes. He's going to run him to the ground. Why did Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson play heavy minutes? Because when you spell those guys off the court, we lose playmaking, we lose rebounding, we lose physicality, we lose versatile score. So as much as people that hate on Julius Randle, the guy is one of the top forwards in the game because he can beat you, he can hit the outside shot, he can take you inside, he can shoot the midi, he's strong, he can get to the basket if he needs to. Like I said, if he was healthy, I think the Miami series would be a lot more closer than what people think, and we might actually win that series with a healthy Julius Randle. Because I knew that Bam Adebayo could not stay with him. He couldn't. But the problem was we had lack of shooting. If we had a shooter in that lineup, even a guy like Joe Ingles, somebody that could shoot the three, defend, they may not be the greatest one, but they have the might to keep up, especially what Tom Thibodeau likes. I think that would help this team in a lot more ways. You got Torrey Craig, another option that's a free agent, a 3-and-D guy, a wing. That's what we need. You want to go to stretch 5 route? You got the kid from Asbury Park that is a free agent from Minnesota, Nas Reed. Yeah. These are guys that you can bring in that could solve a lot of problems with our depth, with our shooting, with our bench. And we've seen Tom Thibodeau for most people kill him and say he doesn't adjust. Listen, he's shown a more open mind last year, and I think he's trusting a little bit more of his personnel. As Johnny Bryant, I've seen a lot in this year, and I'm sure he's being influential with his, being always. He might play. People say, well, where is he going to find the minutes? I said, well, you could put him he can open up a 10-man rotation. Because now if you get DiVincenzo coming off the bench, now that's another playmaker that now people crying about Brunson playing too many minutes. Now you get a DiVincenzo that he can play make. He can break down a defense. He can hit a J if he needs to. He can take it inside the paint. This is a guy that can do multiple things and it's not going to kill your cap space and it's not going to cost a lot because he's on a Golden State Warrior team that's prioritizing other players before him. They're not going to be able to resign him. So that's a guy that's one of the guys I wish I want the Knicks to really sign. There's been rumors that the Knicks are going to make a run for him, and I think that'll be a smart move because you add a guy like that, you won't see Brunson being so drained out, so worn out. You could tell sometimes he had too much weight on his shoulders because he was playing a lot of heavy minutes because we had that lack of playmaking. You saw once he stepped off the floor, the spacing was terrible. There was no guy that could get to the cup and drive and dish it and kick it out. There was nobody that could break down the defense. Deuce McBride, as much as I love the kid, he's just a great defensive player, but he can't shoot and he can't break down a defense. You could see it clear in the Game 6 against Miami where he was getting stripped. He couldn't break it down. He couldn't hit an outside shot. There's the things that we can address that can help the team. Right. There's small incremental moves, but those type of moves that we make, listen, the East is open, man. Those type of moves that we make, you could be the next Miami Heat. You could go to the finals next year. You know what I'm saying? Because the East is open. So you bring in shooters on the team, wings, maybe a stretch 5, and the dynamics of the Knicks will look a lot much better. And they're out there, man. It's just we gotta pick the right ones. They're out there though. No. They're small moves, but as I said, we don't have to make the home run. Right. We don't.
Now, going back just a little bit now, to Deuce McBride, and it was something, I don't know, maybe it was just, wishful thinking, or maybe just, overanalyzing the situation, but one thing I did notice with Deuce McBride, he kind of reminded me at one point, he kind of reminded me of the Derek Fisher from the early Laker teams, not the second time when they won back to back, but when they went and they won in the three-peat, just being that role player that could play defense. And I feel as though like if he really like works on his shot this offseason, I really do think that he could fit into that role, come get off the bench, defend some of the quicker guards in the East, also in the West, knock down the open threes when the ball cuts, to him or whatever the case may be. I think he could actually be one of those type of players, but the only thing he just got to do is just improve his shooting. I think that's one of the things he got to work on, and another few things that, I wanted to throw out there with you too, as well as we're mentioning, free agents that, the Knicks could possibly pick up that could help, maybe, improve the shooting on the team. You mentioned Seth Curry, you mentioned Donte DiVincenzo, which is another player I like as well. But I also see, you got let me see here. You got Malik Beasley. He's also a free agent this offseason. Alex Burke.
Absolutely. They've been on him for a while.
Malik Beasley?
Yeah.
Okay.
They try to get him in the trade on trade deadline. Okay. The last two trade deadline.
He's definitely a free agent this year, so we have to see, he's another player to keep an eye on. And, then I also, when we was talking the other day, I mentioned Alex Burke. He's a player that's familiar with
definitely a reunion is possible there.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those players that's familiar with Tibbs' system. He's also a fan favorite here in New York. He can get hot, he can knock down the open three, and he can defend. Another one that I see that's open right now that's, on the free agent market coming up is Roy Hachimura. A lot of people was, looking for him to, get traded from Washington to the Knicks. And then you also got Jalen McDaniels. You also have Karis LeVert. He's a free agent this season as well. And you also got Max Struss. So, like, out of those players, like, who would you look for?
Out of all those players that you have to mention, I think the main two ones there, I could definitely see Alex Burks reunion.
Okay.
If they miss out on Malik Beasley, DiVincenzo. So that's another guy, like, you don't have to you can put him on the bench, and he knows his role. He does not require you it's not going to require you a lot of like, like aggression as far as like taking away major minutes from a certain player. Like, you can put him in that in a 9 to 10 man rotation. Mm-hmm. And the other guy I want, I think, like I said, would address those issues is there's one name you didn't mention. I would look at, because I know the Knicks have been revisiting. They've been trying to get Bojan Bogdanovic from the Pistons, and he's another option that I think he's a veteran. And he's a sharp. He's definitely a sharp that you could slide into that three role, that the 3 or the 2 or the 4. I think the 3 or the 2. And those are the two main guys I think that were, like I said, DiVincenzo, Bogdanovic, and who else? I think my fourth one would be Seth Curry.
Okay.
Seth Curry, I think, would be a good fit on the Knicks, even though he had a down year. And don't sleep on them in the trade market, because you got to remember they've been flirting with this for a while. I know it looks like it's not really, like, it's kind of getting a similar player if you make the deal. But I think if anybody's getting traded out of the kids, I think it's the first one to go is going to be Obi Toppin.
Yeah. And
there's been rumors that there was been up for Chris Duarte swap with Indiana. And remember, the Knicks tried to draft him. They tried to move up in the draft, trade up to get him, because they really liked what they saw out of him. He's another guy. Unfortunately, he got into rhythm early in the year. He got hurt and never found his rhythm again. But that's another in the trade option if you want to upgrade to another shooter, a young guy that still got a lot of potential. I would look into that too. That would be another option.
I like that one right there. You mentioned Bogdanovic. He's somebody I've been watching since, he played for the Jazz, and he's one of those shooters that can knock down the open shots, as you said. And also, I like the fact that he has height on him. Like, I think, like, if we had like a tall shooter, in which I thought that, Isaiah Hartenstein was going to be in that role and could have been effective for us if they let him take more outside shots. If you bring a guy like Bogdanovic, that's definitely going to be something that would, pick up for us, having a big that can sit out there on the 3-point line, and somebody you got to account for that will also help to space the paint, and you're not going to be able to pack the paint like we've seen in that Miami Heat series, this past playoffs and everything. So he's definitely one that I like to watch. And I know a lot of people out there have been flirting with the idea of wanting to bring back Kristaps Porzingis. Like me, I like Porzingis, but I don't think that he's.
I don't want it.
Yeah,
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think he's one of the guys that we should consider bringing back, especially with the way that it ended. Because the moment he has a bad game, or he gets hurt or something like that, he's not going to be able to handle that New York pressure, which I feel as though is part of the reason why he left in the first place.
No, absolutely, I agree with that, and I see a lot of it. I mean, it amazes me how Knicks fans have just amnesia when it comes to Kristaps Porzingis. I get the stretch. I get the stretch 4, stretch 5. Mm-hmm. The versatility that he brings. That is something that we do need. But let's face it, bro. It's not even about his skill. It's about the guy just can't stay healthy. Like you can't bring in a guy like that, and then like I said, man, your best ability is your availability.
That's true.
And to me, Kristaps Porzingis just doesn't have that. And for as much people as they can listen, he played next to Luka Doncic, a generational talent, and pretty much in the playoffs, his numbers were awful.
Yeah.
So these guys killed Julius Randle for having bad playoff performance. This guy's gonna have this reunion just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Some Knicks fans have this shiny new toy syndrome.
Yeah.
And they just said like taking back that toxic X. And I just think that shit that sailed a long time ago. I get it. He misses us. He misses being in New York. You clearly see it as day. But I just think ultimately, man, let that be another team's problem. I don't want him here.
And then also like
a guy that I would like to get to, we don't have to mention yet, is Kyle Kuzma.
I was just about to mention
think
he's on my
Kyle
list.
Kyle Kuzma, to me, while he's not the greatest defensive player, don't get me wrong, but he has enough length to at least be there. That's what I'm trying to say is to at least make an effect. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the versatility he brings offensively, I think, like I said, he can shoot the outside. He can actually create his own shot. I would take a chance on him, man. I really would. I think he would elevate this team. It's a small move. This is why I said we don't have to go after the Joel Embiid. We don't have to make this home run. We've seen how this stuff plays out. When you start swinging for the fences and you literally mess up the continuity that you have with your team. You bring in a guy like Embiid, and yes, while he's an MVP caliber talent, but we also seen him have no shows in the playoffs.
Exactly.
In Philly. Imagine what he's going to do over here. And then he's another guy, a big guy, that gets hurt a lot.
Exactly.
So this is what I'm trying to say. You want to bring in guys, make it make sense that where I want a player that's going to play here, that he's going to have the availability to play. I don't want a guy to come in here and we got to worry about, listen, we dealt with it with Amari Stoudemire when we were warned about the knee issues before they signed him. Mm-hmm. The same thing with Embiid. And then not to mention Morey. People forget this is Daryl Morey. Mm-hmm. You do know that he's going to want the farm for him. So you're going to sell the whole house like for this guy that, you have major question marks about. I just don't see it. I don't see what world we do that. But this front office has gave me confidence sure that they're not going to get fleeced. So I don't think an Embiid deal is just not going to happen.
It's not conducive to our team anyway, and I don't think he would have the good chemistry to mesh well with the players that we would have left. And then at the end of the day, like you just said, if you go and you make a move for a guy like Embiid, you're going to have to give up the house. Like, last season, everybody got pissed off because the Knicks didn't give up the house to go get Donovan Mitchell, which turned out to work for us because we ended up knocking off the Cavs in the playoffs. But you go and you
Absolutely.
you trade for a guy like Embiid or trade for a guy like, Giannis or a guy like most people have been talking about lately is, Luka, you're going to have to give up, a nice little, handful of players. And then on top of that, you're going to give away like more than half of your draft picks to acquire this person. And then after that, where are you going to be able to build with? Because you got all of your money tied into this one player, and then all this, these different players that you had that could have filled out your roster, they playing for another team right now because you wanted to bring in that one guy that will ruin the chemistry for the team. So I think, the approach that we have right now, where we're just making small incremental moves and just finding the right pieces that will fit within Tibbs' system. People got to realize you got to bring in the players that's going to be able to fit to the coach and what the coach want to do. And that's why a lot of people, like, you look at the Cam Reddish situation, you look at the, the situation with Kevin Knox and some of these other guys, they just did not fit the system. You look at when they traded for Josh Hart, he was a hand in glove fit. fitting in Tibbs' system. Did everything like he wanted them to do. He was a glue guy. A lot of people like to say when it comes to describing the type of player that Josh Hart is. So you got to bring in people that's going to fit the system. You can't just bring in people that have a name. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of Knicks fans get mixed up in is they get mixed up in the whole star quality or the name value that most of these players play, but you don't never see the things that they do on the court. You know what I'm saying? Because like a lot of people, like you talking about Embiid disappeared. He was pretty much non-existent this whole playoffs. Boston,
that's
I feel
what
as though
I'm saying. He'll come here and listen. They treat Julius. You see what they do to Julius Randle. You would think this guy was just a bum role player. Mm-hmm. Like this guy's a 2-time All NBA player, one of the best power forwards in the game, and they talk about him like if he's Ruben Patterson. No offense to Ruben Patterson, but like, come on, man. This guy has literally, like, what's crazy? I'm gonna tell you what's crazy with Knicks fans, right? With some Knicks fans, we always preach that we want players that got it out the mud. We want players that came from nothing and became something, because that's a part of New York, right? You get it from the mud. You didn't no handouts. You work hard to get to where you at. And Julius Randle embodies all of that, because you got to remember, people have like such short-sighted memory. This is why I know people do not watch outside of Knicks. They don't watch what goes on around the NBA. But people forget that Julius Randle came into the league on the same draft class as Embiid, right? Behind him, right? In a good draft class. And what does he do? He comes into his first game and breaks his leg.
Yeah.
Breaks his leg. Out for the season. That's for a young guy, mentally, some people don't ever recover from that. He broke his leg, literally, first game, into the first few minutes of the game. Broke his leg. Works hard. Stays in the gym. Gets his physical right. Gets his body right. Comes back into game shape. Has a second year, up and down. Still finding his groove. Third year, he starts looking better. I watched the Lakers team. It was a bad team, but he looked a lot better, looked more fluid. He was doing 360 spins in the paint, layups. It just looked like what he looked like in Kentucky.
Right.
What does he do? He goes to New Orleans, plays on a good team, Drew Holiday. Now he has a veteran, gets him in line, ups his game more, has a great year, gets better. What happens? Free agency. Nobody wanted to sign him. We bluffed on the Kyrie. We bluffed on the KD. Nobody wanted to come to New York. This young, up-and-coming talent says, you know what? I'm ready for the smoke. I'm going to come to New York. I'm going to bring my talent to New York. Nobody was excited about that deal. I was. Because I said, I seen Julius Randle improve year by year. I like what I see. We need to take a flyer on him. Because when you're a bad team, you have to take flyers on players like that. So we took a flyer. The first year with the Knicks wasn't so great. Up and down, a lot of low basketball IQ, turning the ball. To me, he was trying too much. That's what I saw in Julius Randle. I said, you know what? He wants to show that he can be that guy.
I agree.
On a bad team.
But also,
and I think he was pressing a lot.
But I also think that the coach put him in a bad situation. Julius Randle is not a point forward, and that's one thing that they try to make him, in which he wasn't.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Like when you play a player out of his element, just like our last year, by default, we try to put Alec Burks at point guard, and that's not what he is. The same thing with Julius Randle. He plays out of position, like you said, and that's a phenomenal point. Playing that point forward, I don't think that's his role.
Right.
But has an up and down season. Fans wanted him out of here, rightfully so. Comes back, has a great year. Totally different person. More confident, relaxing, playing his game, what he did in Kentucky. Playing his game. Knowing who he is. Reminding you of what the kid was drafted for. Then what happens? We go to the playoffs. We excel. We get past, we overachieve. We're a team that was very limited in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
Nothing compared to this team this year. This team is light years better, a lot more younger, 7th youngest in the league, way better, with more talent. And a point guard. I mean, he had Alfred Payton running point guard.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of other cast-offs. And that team was severely flawed. We had no hands, Noel. Mitchell Robinson, unfortunately, went down. I think if Mitchell Robinson even plays at Atlanta, because I think that series was a lot different. because we lost a lot. Interior, we were suffering when Nerlens Noel down there. He couldn't catch a lob or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that series was a lot different.
I think also if we would have kept Marcus Morris, we would have been, a different series if we would have kept him that year. But it did get us quickly. But my bad, I ain't want to cut you off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So because we did make that deal. We got rid of Marcus Morris, so he was a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I love the chemistry that both have, but we all knew that Marcus Morris belonged on a contender, not on a team that's rebuilding.
Right.
So we flip that into quickly, which I'm not even mad about. And we go into the next year like last year. He's playing good again, mm-hmm. but it was the other stuff he was doing, getting into it with the fans. The whatever they were saying on social media, whatever the media was saying, it was getting to his head.
Right.
So what does he do? He goes at it with the fans, the whole thumbs down, smacking monitors out of his assistant's hands, mm-hmm. being very emotional, not congratulating his teammates. Body language is just all over the place. Looks like he's uninterested.
Right.
So rightfully so, I was with what people are doing now. I was doing that last year too. Then coming to this year. Okay, fresh start. Let's see if he's a changed man, right? Mm-hmm. Clean slate. Comes into this year, checks his mental health, you could tell he's got like some kind of spiritual advisor on the sidelines. When he feels like he's reverting back to last year, what is he doing? He's meditating. And I'm all for that. I'm all for spirituality, and whatever helps you get through your problems, I'm all for it. He's a human being at the end of the day. He's not a robot. He's not 2K. He's not an AI robot. He's a human being with feelings. I don't know what that man was going through personally that made him act out last year. And that's between him and that's between God, not me.
Right.
But he checks all that. And then he's a better teammate. He's passing better out of double teams, which he wasn't doing last year. He's being more happy, more joyful. And you can tell the genuine love of the game is coming back to him. Mm-hmm. What is he doing? He's literally going with the fans, but in the right way, amping them up, saying this is my house. He's a different person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love about him. He embodies what New York is about. It's a guy that literally came from nothing. His career could have been derailed off that one injury. Some people don't come back from that. And then what does he do? He comes back and makes the All-Star game twice, wins All-NBA twice. When is the last time the Knicks had an All-NBA caliber player? You want to know who it was?
Melo.
That everybody loves, and I remember how they treated him too. Carmelo Anthony. Mm-hmm. Carmelo Anthony received the most hate. He was a ball hog. He was a bad teammate. He was this. He was that. You want to know what I remember about Carmelo Anthony? He gave me the best fucking years as a Knicks fan.
Absolutely. That
I didn't have in a long time. Even on bad teams. The same thing with Julius Randle. He hasn't had the most greatest supporting cast. This year is actually the best team he's had in his tenure with the Knicks.
I agree.
So you think I'm going to give up? I'm going to give up on a guy that embodies what New York is about and has a better supporting cast, and it's not even a finished product. People forget that. This is not even a finished product. That's why I said if we address those issues to make this team better now, if you get the doubles coming in, Eric Spoelstra's not going to be able to pack the paint like he did in the playoffs. Because now you can't sag off that outside shooter too much, so you can only cheat on a double, but you got to remember you can't leave that man open because that man will make you pay. And a three is worse than a two.
I agree.
You can't do that. So that's what makes the team more dangerous. So we address those small incremental moves, moving, like I said, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Julius Randle being traded does not solve the issues with this team. The issues with this team is shooting. Content creators, major ones, have said the same thing that I'm saying. I'm not saying it because of an opinion. It's just a fact. Go look at why they lost that series. Because our shooting was terrible in that series, especially in Game 6. If we hit those open shots, off those dunks, because listen, you're a great player if the schemes are built around stopping you. Mm-hmm. Teams literally watch film to stop Julius Randle for a reason.
That's true.
So it kills me when people say that, oh, nobody respects him around the league. This, that, and that. So let me get this straight. People that are actual coaches in the NBA that game plan against him don't respect him. Because to me, and I know this because I'm an NBA fan in general, when you draw in double teams, it's because you are a problem.
Exactly.
They have to not get the ball out of your hands. That doesn't make you a scrub. People saying I'm gonna trade him for picks. I'm gonna get him off my team. I'll trade him for my grandmother. I'll trade him for peanuts. Right. I'm like, are you sure now? This is what I'm saying. You're just talking to talk. You're not really talking any rational. You're talking irrational nonsense. Absolutely. Be realistic. The issue with this team, like I said, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. We need shooting. It starts and it ends with shooting.
Right.
You get shooting on this team, we have a whole different conversation and a product. But the only thing we can do now, especially as Knicks fans, the only thing I can do now is to say, you know what? Julius Randle got to come out the gate next year and shut everybody up. That's all I got to say, because a lot of people were killing him. And I give some people credit because they did say, you know what? I'm going to lay off him because you know what? Him having that ankle surgery proves to me that it affected him, which I've been telling people. I said that affected his play. I'm telling you, I played basketball. When you severely sprain your ankle like that, especially a high grade, that affects your lateral movement. Yeah. That affects the way you hustle. That affects the way you get back on defense. Sometimes you don't have the legs for it. You know what I'm saying? And it kills me because you'll see people say, oh, I played organized ball. If you played organized ball, you wouldn't be saying that, because I did. I know how it affects your game. This man is 6'8", 6'9", 280 pounds. Because they'll sit there and say, oh, well, Jalen Brunson and Jimmy Butler was playing hurt. But you do understand it with different body types.
Exactly.
And he's a bigger guy. He's a really big guy. Yeah. I've seen him in person. He's a monster.
And a high ankle sprain is almost like a high ankle sprain is almost like a break, almost, when you really think about it. You know, like high ankle sprains.
Yeah, you can see it on the cat. You see the cat, like you saw like the picture. That's not a regular ankle sprain. Like, it wasn't a Jimmy Butler, Jalen Brunson ankle sprain. It was, and then remember, he hurt it twice.
Yeah.
Because you forget, a lot of people forget, he was getting his rhythm back in that closeout game against Cleveland. Unfortunately, he got hurt again, but you could tell he was driving, looking like the Julius Randle again that we saw in the NBA in the regular season before he got hurt. So that's what made me listen. It don't take even an even keel person to see that it was affecting him. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that it just happened at the wrong time. That's why I said he's a victim of the circumstances. Because, like I said, if he was healthy, people wouldn't be saying the things that they're doing right now, or doing the things that they're, saying the things like trade him for this, trade him for that. They wouldn't do it.
That's true. Now, the one thing I will say, when I look and I analyze the whole Julius Randle situation, maybe this is just my perspective. I'm not saying that this is true, but this is just my guess on the whole situation with why he played bad that season. I really think that it was the pressure of playing for that contract, having, being paid like a number one option. I think that has something to do with them psychologically, because now it's like a prove it kind of deal. Like, all right, I had this great season. Now I'm putting more pressure on myself than is warranted to come out here and show people that I was, worthy of this contract. Same thing I said with, RJ Barrett this past season. He played pretty good, to close out that last season that we didn't go to the playoffs. He got, the big contract that he got. He wasn't traded for Donovan Mitchell. And I think he was trying to prove to the fans that he belongs here. He wants to be here. And I think he was more so in his head more so than he was actually out there playing the game. When you see that he was actually able to settle down and actually go out there and really start playing their game and not really focusing on, too much of the chatter, they started playing the way that, we had expected them to. Started seeing a better game from RJ. You started seeing a better game from Julius Randle. And you started seeing a better game from, what they was able to do and bring to the team. And, you go back also and you think about what you were saying about the whole situation, about it being shooting, throw a couple of numbers at you. Overall, as a team, we shot 47% for field goal and 35.7% from three-point range. So imagine if those numbers would have been a little bit higher. You wouldn't have been able, like you said, to pack the paint and, dare their shooters to shoot and give them a bunch of open looks. So, that's the one major thing that we need to address, because you got Quentin Grimes, he can shoot. You have, Quickly, but Quickly is erratic. And then you got, Evan Fournier, who's also very streaky when it comes down to it. Maybe you got to play against Boston for 82 games for him to, have a good shooting night or whatever the case may be. But it's like, we need to get consistent knockdown shooters that you're not going to be able to just leave open.
And that's a great point, because like I said, man, you look at this team, man, it's like people running away from the problem because they want to focus on that one player that they can't get over. And then, hey, we need shooting, man. Yeah. And you hit the nail right on the head.
And then it's like people keep talking about trade Julius Randle. Julius Randle averaged 25.1 points and 10 rebounds last season. Who are you going to get to bring in that's going to replace that kind of production at this moment and still have a good chemistry with the team? And then, like you said, a lot of people think that Obi Toppin to fit that bill, but I don't think he's going to fit that right now until he gets stronger on the glass. And that's even if he's in a Knicks uniform come next season.
And if another thing that people forget, like I've seen countless games with him where teams will level him shooting threes for a reason. Mm-hmm. They know he's not going to take it in. They leave him wide open. They leave open lanes for him. He's scared to drive. He doesn't have a dribble package to get to the rim. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that he really needs to work on to expand his game because, hitting a few open threes and breaking out and leaking out is not going to cut it once you get into the playoffs or in a high-score game. Some people say, well, I don't see him put up 20 points or 30 points in the game before I say, yeah, when was that game? Mm-hmm. At the end of the year when teams are playing backups and G leaders.
Right.
Like that doesn't matter. But because listen, be honest with you, right? We're both Knicks fans. Mm-hmm. When he started for Julius Randle game 1 against the Heat, did he make an impact?
No, he didn't.
That's my point. Because if he was so, uber talented the way people make it seem, well, he needs more minutes. Well, I've seen Obi get more minutes and not make the impact that people think or claim that he would make. I'm realistic. I'm rooting for the kid. As long as he's here, I want him to improve. Mm-hmm. So when I see Obi take it to the rim, when I see him do things that I want him to get better at, and he's done it here and there, but not consistently, I'm like, that's the Obi I need. That's what we need to do. Take it to the cup. Beat him off the dribble. Post up the smaller man. Stuff like that, man. Like, he's too big, too tall, just meander. And then I see countless games where Tibbs is yelling at him, Obi, get out the corner. And I'm like, people don't notice this, bro. Like, they say, oh, well, he just stands in the corner. I say, a lot of times it's Obi wanting to stand in the corner because Tibbs is screaming his lungs out, telling him to get out the corner.
I think
that's on Obi. It's not him. As I said, I don't care what coach you put him. If he doesn't expand his own game,
right,
he's not going to get better. That's why I tell people all the time. People always blame the coach. I'm like, sometimes it's not the coach, it's the player that doesn't want to upgrade his skills and his game. I don't care what coach you put him on. If he just is comfortable standing in the corner, and you got to remember, man, this guy played 4 years in college. Sometimes it's, I hate to say it because it sounds messed up, but, it's very rare that they improve their games and start just changing, just going to the rim magically and getting a dribble package. That's something that he's got to put in major work. And if he makes it work, God bless him, but it's not going to be because Tibbs failed him if he's here or not. It's because Obi put in the work to get better.
That is true.
People got to understand the difference between the two.
I think another thing also that the Knicks would need going into the season is defined roles. We know who our core is at this point. Right now, that's Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett. But where do everybody else fall into place? Like, a lot of people give Mitchell Robinson flack because he doesn't have much of an offensive game. But I think his defined role is exactly what we've been seeing for these last couple of seasons. Grab the rebounds, be a presence in the paint, and block shots. You get him a lob, you get him an alley-oop, you get him to the basket, or whatever the case may be, then cool. That's a plus for us because it helps with, the other players on the team. If you get those putback dunks, if you can get those alley-oops, and if you can just help, take the pressure off, say like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle getting into the paint, that helps a whole lot. But, a lot of people want him to be this stretch five, this, Joker type of player, but that's not in his resume. That's not in his repertoire. He's what he is. And then you also look at a guy like Grimes. Grimes is a glue guy. I like Grimes, and I really do feel as though Grimes can be better, but he's got to stop being so scared to shoot. He's got to know how to hit those open looks. When he gets the ball and when he's really in rhythm, you see a big difference in his game. His confidence is up. He's going to the basket. He got a quick first step, and he got a good layup package. So he's pretty much, if we get to the basket, he's going to finish at the rim at a high percentage. And then if he starts knocking down those open shots and it's pretty much game over, he's not going to be able to be one of those people that you can just leave open or leave in the corner and think that he's not going to make an impact on the team. He already does good defensively, but he needs to have a defined role as well. I felt as though, like, with RJ Barrett, when it came down to him, I feel as though his role from the get-go should have been slashing to the basket. You know what I mean? Like, if he would have been the slasher going to the basket like he showed us at that one point in time, that would have been a lot different, because now you can put Julius Randle at the high in the paint, or whatever the case may be, run some pick and rolls and have RJ cutting back door, slashing to the basket. Same thing with Jalen Brunson. You would have been able to run more pick and rolls if you had this guy cutting to the basket, because now you're going to get open looks as soon as the defense collapses on him. You know what I'm saying? So I think it comes down to it that they need a lot of defined roles.
And there's a thing that a lot of people, because I've been one of those guys that been vouching for Quentin Grimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that Quentin Grimes does, like I said, man, he gives you a lot of good intangibles. I think the kid is a lot more skilled than what people think. A lot of people forget too that he used to run point guard before he went into the college. They had him running two-guard point guard. A lot of times, especially in high school, he came up as a point guard before he went to college. So you see some of it sometimes during live in the NBA games when you watch him with his skill set, that he has a lot of point guard as skills, Mm-hmm. But I think ultimately too, I wasn't so crazy and hard on him, because people got to remember too with him, this essentially was his first year, because last year he never really caught a rhythm because he was hurt a lot. And then when he did find some type of role or rhythm, he would go down again with another injury. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he might have played, like 40-something games, I believe.
He didn't play that many
games.
Like
that. He didn't play a full season. So you got to remember, too, essentially, it's kind of like his first year.
True.
First year in the playoffs. First year, essentially, like growing with this unit and this team. He's another guy that, like I said, man, his growth, if he can grow into, like you said, if he trusts his shot a little bit more, and basically doesn't second guess himself that much, because listen, shoot is going to shoot, man, regardless. So I just think he has to have that mentality there, that don't second guess yourself, man. And sometimes I think he's too fast for the game. He need to slow down just a little bit, because we found out he's going on, instead of going on 100, he's going on like 150. On the lane, and I think if he lets the game just come to him, and sometimes he speeds it up too much for himself. I think if he stops rushing and pressing, I think Quentin Grimes could be a much better shooter, much better. You can see, man, he can get to the cup, man. He's got a bag in him to drive and get to that cup, man. Yeah. I love the way he finishes at the rim. I think it's on the ring. I'm gonna be honest with you. Aside from Josh Hart, I think he's one of the best cutters on the team. I see his cutting skills are very good.
I agree.
When he gets cut into the cup.
And then just when you think about Quentin Grimes, I really do feel as though he's probably the best pure shooter on the team, when it comes down to it. Yes. And I really think that, once he really start to trust his shot and it falls more consistently, I think he can be pretty much a top 5 shooter in the NBA. Maybe it's a stretch, maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but it's just, when you look at the form, you look at how quick his release is, and then you look at how fluent his shot is. If he really starts connecting on them shots, he's going to shoot a high percentage, and he's going to be one of the tougher, guards to defend in the league once that shot starts falling. And then, like we was just saying right now, he's one of the better players on the team and cutting to the basket. So, you give him a little head fake, he can already, with that first step, he's already going to the basket, and he's going to finish at a high level. So, I don't take nothing away from Quentin Grimes. This was, like you said, essentially his rookie season, because his, first year got cut short, due to injuries. But the one thing I do question, because we've seen it a lot here in the last 2 years with Quentin Grimes, is his durability. Will he be healthy for a whole season? Will he be able to, not get injured as much as he did these last couple of years? I think that's one of the major questions that we can rightfully ask, being that, he's been injured a lot these last couple of years. What you think?
No, I definitely agree with that, man. I definitely agree with everything you just said, bro. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Like I said, man, I just see Liv, man. We're in a good spot. We got some good young talent. Eventually we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with Quigley. If we're gonna pay him, are we not gonna pay him? Are we gonna trade him? What that situation will look like. I do think his playoff, the way he didn't really play too well in the play, I think that kind of dropped his stock a little bit.
Yeah.
So it might have worked out in the favor for us. But I think ultimately, man, like I said, man, we got the 6th, 7th youngest team in the NBA. We got a generational talent, superstar point guard that we haven't addressed since we had Stephon Marbury. And we got one of the best power forwards in the game. We got a 22-year-old that's ascending. Unfortunately, even though he had an up and down regular season, he did show a lot of bright spots in the playoffs. I tell people all the time, I'm not giving up on RJ. I love him.
Yeah, me neither.
Even though I have some things I want him to improve on, but he like I said, I just think something about the kid is he's special because we have not drafted someone with his caliber and his potential. Guys putting up those type of numbers and showing growth. And even though he had an up and down year, I think the kid's gonna figure it out. And I just said, man, we need shooting. Shooting is the issue, and I'll leave it right there. Shooting. Whether it be the stretch five aspect, another shooter, playmaker coming off the bench, a wing. We need shooters and we need wings. So I think those are definitely issues that we're gonna have to address. Those top three. Trading Julius Randle is not one of the number one agenda. It's not.
Absolutely. So with that being said, Knicks fans, hold your horses. We're in good spot. We're in a good position. We're in good shape going into the offseason. We don't need to make no drastic moves. Only thing we need to do is just add some shooting, add a pretty nice size wing that can defend out there and also hit those open shots when available and all that good stuff, man. And we good. We don't need to go gut our whole team for a superstar player. We don't need to do all that extra stuff. Just not to quote what Philly do, but trust our process, man, because I really do feel like our, front office got us going in the right direction, man. Just the guys just need to be a little patient. That's all it is. Just be patient and just enjoy the climb because it's definitely going in the right direction, I feel.
No, I definitely agree, man.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
No doubt.
For sure, man. This is definitely a dope episode, man. I appreciate it, man. I think the Knicks, like I said, man, they're in a good position. And the sky's not falling, and don't listen to Knicks Twitter. Those are not the places you go to. Because them guys that are all being negative, I'll tell you, I know half of them, they've been wrong all year. They've been moving the goalposts the whole season. They couldn't wait till we get eliminated to bring those takes out of the dead, man. So, don't listen to people that have been wrong all year, man.
I agree.
Those are not people you go to.
Well, Ariel, man, once again, thank you for coming through, chopping it up with me, talking Knicks basketball, talking NBA talk, and talking sports all together. Looking forward to catching you on that Mark Price interview. I mean, not interview, but episode that you got coming with Gold School.
Hey, you're speaking into existence, man.
Huh?
You said interview. If I was interviewed, I said you're speaking that into existence.
Hey,
because it might happen.
You never know. Maybe that's called divine intervention, as they like to say.
There you go, divine intervention. That was the word I was looking for. Divine intervention.
No doubt, man. But I definitely think you on the right path. Yeah, I think you definitely on the right path with your platform and everything, man. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, man. Definitely looking forward to bringing you back to have more conversations and discussions like this again soon. So definitely appreciate you for that.
Listen, man, I'm cool with it, man. You can do it weekly. Listen, I got time, man. I love talking ball, so all you gotta do is hit me up. Hey, are you available on this such date? And you know how it goes, man. I love talking hoops, man, so no problem with me.
Absolutely. And for everybody else out there, be sure to follow me on Twitter at the Emilio Wegball. This one right here, we're going to be posting up on the YouTube channel as well at EJP Entertainment. Be sure to go over there and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and share with your peoples and all that good stuff. And be sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date when we are dropping brand new content for all y'all out there that would like to check out the Nonstop Radio Show, the Top 10 of the Week show. You can check out the Nonstop Radio Show every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Kawan J Media Digital Broadcast Network, as well as the Top 10 of the Week show every Saturday, 12 noon, also on the Kawan J Media Network. And all you got to do is just go to KawanJmedia.com or download the DJ Kawan mobile app, which is available now for both iPhone and Android users worldwide. And on behalf of my man Ariel De Jesus, it's your boy Emilio Wegball. And until next time, y'all all be good out there, you heard? Peace. Want to be heard on the Nonstop Radio Show? Send us your submissions in MP3 format at Let's Network Musically 212@gmail.com.
This is Nonstop Radio.